Have you ever wanted to know when an NES game was manufactured? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you how to tell the exact manufacturing date of a box and a manual and the approximate manufacturing date of a cartridge. Let's go. Now let's take a random game that I have a duplicate of, like Prisoners of War, and you might ask, which print is this? And you might think, well, they're the same print. They're both oval seal, they're both TM, they're both Rev A, they're both obviously non-hang tab. This didn't come in a hang tab. But you would think that these boxes are both the same and therefore these are both the same print. These are not the same print. These are actually the same variant because the boxes are identical, but they were printed on different days. And I'm going to show you how to tell which day each of these were printed. So let's take this one first. Open up the top. And then the right flap, open it up, and you'll see that this is NES FW USA. That's the game code. But you'll also see this other 5-digit number under here, 90719. So the 9 is the year. That's 1989. If it was 1, 2, or 3, it'd be 1991, 92, 93, like that. The second two digits are the month, 07, so it was July. And the fourth and fifth digits are the day. So this box was printed on the manufacturing line July 19th, 1989, on that exact day. Now if we look at the other box, here's the other box. It's a little more beat up. We can see, if we open it up, on the right side flap, same game code, but this one was printed on December 27th of 1989, so about 5 months later. So both of these are different print runs, even though the boxes are identical. Now let's take a look at the manuals. So I've got the manual here for one of them, and if I look in the manual, I'll see it matches the box. It's an oval seal TM, so this should go with the box. But there's a way to tell if it was actually printed to go in that specific box. And if you go to the very last page, you'll see this familiar 5-digit number again. So you'll see this manual was printed on the manufacturing line July 18th, 1989. It was printed 1 day prior to the box. So that means that on the manufacturing line, they printed these manuals, and then on the following day, they printed the boxes. Then they assembled them together, and they shipped them out. So I know that this manual, because it's 1 day off the box, I know this manual belongs with that box. Let's take a look at the other manual. So this is the manual I had with the other box until I looked at the date. Remember, this was December 27th, 1989. And if we look at the manual that came in that box, somebody pieced it together because the manual was printed on January 2nd of 1989. So that means in 1989, there were at minimum 3 print runs. There was this one, the box that came with this, and then the other box and manual that match each other. So I know that this manual, even though it's identical to the manual that's supposed to be in that box, doesn't actually belong in that box. This belongs in a different print run. So now let's take a look at cartridges. So the reason I say you can only tell the approximate date of the cartridge is because if we look here on the back, we've got these security bits. It's because once we get into it, I'll show you. So I've got this security bit here that you can get this on Amazon for like $2. And I just put this in here, open up the cartridge. You should have one of these bits to take the game convention, so you can always tell the authenticity of a game You should always open up an expensive game before you buy it. But if we open this up, we can see that there are dates on the chips. So if we look here, I don't know if I can get it with the lighting here, but you can see right there, there's an 8929. This is the PRG, I believe. And this chip is the CHR. This has 8929 as well. So both of these chips were printed in 1989 in the 29th week of 1989. So the reason I say the chips were printed is because when they make the cartridge, they just put their hand into a bin of chips, pull out some chips, stuff them in there, whichever chips they grab, they don't really care. So you only know when the chips were made. So I know that this cartridge was printed after the 29th week of 1989, but I can't really say much more than that. Sometimes they've been known to use chips that were up to a year old, but I do know for sure it wasn't printed before that. Now, before you go and try to check all your black box games, I have some bad news for you. These game codes and dates were only printed on the flaps 1988. There might be some 1987 I think I've seen in the past, but the majority of them were in 1988 and beyond. Any games printed in 85, 86, and early 87 don't have these. So I've got a TM Zelda here, The Legend of Zelda, and if we look on the flap, the right flap, it's completely blank. No game code, no date. You can't actually tell when this was printed. So unfortunately, it doesn't work for the older games, but you can tell with some of the more recent games, like 1988 and beyond. So let's look at one game. You ever wonder how often they could print a game? Well, how about one of the most common games, Super Mario Bros. Duck Hunt? Every one of these is an individual, different, unique print run of the game. These are all different. Let me get some of these out and I'll show you some of the codes. So let's just take a look at this one example. So these three manuals you would think are identical. They're all Circle Seal. They're all NES MH USA. No TM, no R, no Rev A. Supposedly identical. If you look on the back, all three of them supposedly identical. You picked up these three manuals, you might think you already have it, and you might think that these are all the same print run. They are not. So if you look at the first one, go to the last page, bottom right corner, no date. So this was printed 1987 or earlier. There's actually no way to tell. So we just have to know that this one was an earlier print. So then we go to the next one, we look at this. Last page, we see that this one was printed December 20th, 1988. So December 20th. And then we look at the last one and we see a month later, on January 21st of 1989, 1 month after the previous printing, they printed this one. But they printed this game like crazy. So they were constantly running these, and there were probably even print runs in between that. I've seen print runs only a week apart. Now, before I go, I do want to show you one last thing. This only applies to licensed games because they only were printed by Nintendo. The unlicensed games were printed who knows where by who knows who. And so the only licensed game that I know of that doesn't use this date code system is Batman Return of the Joker. And if you look on the tabs, you'll see there is no date code, even though these were printed after 1988. These are a later release game, not too late, but they were released 88 or later. I can't remember exactly when. And you might also think that these are identical and there's no way to tell one print from another. But there's another anomaly about this game specifically, which I find incredibly strange. So every NES game was giving a model, a game code designation, which was NES, and then 2 digits, not always numbers, alphanumeric, and then USA, or the country it was printed in. And this game specifically, I don't know what happened with this, but apparently it got 3 characters for the first print run, and then Nintendo noticed it, took out the P, and then just gave it the 2 digits. So I find that incredibly strange. And hey, maybe you know one print from the other, and maybe you want to collect both. So if you want to know the print date of your game, from The Legend of Zelda to Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, you can just check now and see when your game was printed, the exact day for the box or manual, or an approximate date for the cartridge. So if you like these videos, subscribe, check back, and see when I make more. See you in the next video.